Welcome to yet another episode of Red Carpet Reviews. Today we are handling the history and specs of the Yamaha XT500, the legendary and actually the start of all the off-road thumpers. XT stands for 4-stroke trail, and it was one of the first road legal off-road trail bikes on the market, and it's gained many followers. Today we're diving into the specs, the history, and of course some cool stories about this bike. Stay tuned. The Yamaha XT500 was designed to be a street legal desert enduro racer and was the street legal brother of the TT500, which got launched in the year before. It was built from 1976 until 1989, and it's got many versions. I see these bikes as Pokemons because every year they had just a little bit different appearance, and if you have one, you just gotta catch them all. Being launched in 1976, the XT500 was the start of this big single enduro bike scene. It got followed quickly by Honda with their XL500S and, for example, Suzuki with their SP370. Although all of these bikes are pretty cool, the XT500 was the biggest success, and for our dads, their wet dream. Although my father might not dream anymore about kickstarting this bike, for me this machine is pure trail bike history. Back in 1979, it was the first Dakar rally, and the XT500 won it. It became an iconic desert racer with Cyril Neveu on the seat, and they won the first prize in 1979 and 1980. Although it gained many competitors throughout the years, the XT500 for many people stayed the most iconic. It started in 1976 with this model. This is the 76 model, and it had a big evolution between models from 76 towards 89, and I'm going to talk you through that evolution. So, being a 76, it had all these special parts which only this model had. So it's very hard to get it originally and to find these parts. For example, you can see it has different turn signals. It's got a different rear light. It's got a very different exhaust which goes underneath, which is very difficult to find originally. And it's got some nifty little details like a toolkit and some other stuff that is just slightly different from the other models. From 1977, it gained a new tank decals, the light changed, the turn signal changed, and of course the exhaust changed to a higher version, which went like this, had a flame box here and a silencer here. Hey guys, the Kickback company specializes in vintage off-road fashion and culture. So have you checked out our latest XT500 merch? We've got these deluxe crew necks and some really nice retro tees. So go check them out. 78, 79, there were some small changes, but the most visible, of course, were the tank decals and also the rubbers from the front fork. The 79 had a special front fender, which only had that year because it has the same shape but some air vents. And then came a bigger revolution. In 1980, they actually changed a couple of things. They changed the steel tank to an aluminium tank. They changed the seat to not look so much like a sofa, like the old ones. They changed a couple of things really, like the hot start button and some other details. For me, there's two models. There is the pre-1980 model, which had a steel tank, and there's the after 1980 model with the alloy tanks. They actually had 3 versions. No, they had 4 versions of alloy tanks. They had the white one with the triangle on the top. They had the shiny one in a black one and a dark blue. And they had the jubileum version. How do you say that? The jubileum version? Anniversary. And they had an anniversary model in 1989, which actually had a different look. They had a different decal tank, and they had black fenders and some chromed out parts, which was only that year as well. It had evolution. It's really nice to have several, and it's really nice to work on. Let's see how it's doing in specs. So the XT500 is a badass machine, maybe in a not so badass frame. If you ask me, the coolest thing about this thing is that it's a hooligan machine, but she's still elegant. It doesn't look like big, black, badass, Scold-like. No, it's made by Yamaha. They made pianos, and somewhere I can still see that piano elegance in this machine. But while looking elegant, it's got heaps of torque, and it's so fun to ride. You really feel the response of the throttle so quickly. There's a lot of improvements you can make on the bike, but the specs of this machine already makes it off-road worthy and fun to ride. So let's talk about the specs. What's obvious is that it's had a 21-inch wheel at the front, it's drum braked, and it's got an 18-inch rear wheel in the back, which is also a drum braked. It has had telescopic forks, dual shock in the back. It's not a high bike. If you can see, I'm not a very tall guy, and the bike is still small for me, but still for the time it had heaps of suspension travel. If you compare it with the off-road bikes from now, it's incomparable because this suspension is not so good and the suspension travel neither. But there's very nice improvements you can make on that. These bikes you can choose to either maintain original, like you actually have to do with a 76 bike, or you can actually mod them very nicely, which we will discuss in another video. To lose some weight, Yamaha designed the engine to be dry sump. It's also because they can actually have more oil in the system, and they designed it to carry the oil in the frame. That way the oil also comes out of the engine, which also helps with cooling. The bike weighs 140 kilograms dry and can carry up to 8.8 liters of fuel. Like I said, the suspension of course was pretty hardcore back in the day, and the drum brake, after 40 years, making braking a party. To be road legal, it needs to have lights, and they wanted them to be on while the engine was not running anymore. So they added a battery. Battery is just for the lights, because you can still start it anyway without. It's carrying a 6-volt battery, which does make the lighting system of this machine not so bright. It's pretty difficult to get the indicators working properly, and also the front and back light are medium. But there are some improvements to make on there. It's also funny because we can see on this machine, if we start it, it's pretty difficult to get the lights set up properly. This one, for example, now is on, but it's not blinking. If I throttle, it is. That's just patina. That's just patina. The positive thing is this bike is a 32 horsepower. I combine it with the other specs. For me, it feels like 50. Riding this bike, it feels so much more faster than you're actually riding. It's got heaps of torque, and it's very easy to jack up the engine with some modifications, which we are going to give you in the next video. The XT500, it's a very nice bike to have in your shed, to ride but also to maintain, because it's pretty easy to get certain parts and it's fucking hard to get some other parts. We'll talk about that later as well. This was the history of the XT500 and the specs. and a bit of the model revolution. We're now going to dive in a bit deeper on the riding capabilities, on the modifications, and one of the most important ones, on the technical issues which you can get on a bike that is a 45-year-old. So this was Wes from the Geekbike Company. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, check out our XT500 merch, and let's go to the next video.